Alright, the year 2023 is slowly coming to a close. It actually ends here in a couple of days. As of the day I'm filming this, hopefully I'll have this video out to you soon. I'm trying to binge a bunch of videos. But today I'm going to share my 7 biggest surprises and my 7 biggest disappointments of 2023. This list started out as 3. I only was going to talk about 3 movies, and then I moved on to 5, and then moved on to 7. So I had 7 surprises and 7 disappointments, and there's still more that I could have talked about, but these are the main 7. I want to know your list down below. What is your whatever number of disappointments, your whatever number of surprises. I want to know all that and more. This next couple of weeks, I'm going to have top 20 movies of the year, bottom 10. I'm also going to have a Rebel Moon and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom reviews together, and then I don't know if it'll be next week because I'm going to Atlanta. I'm going to not review, but I'm going to rank every movie on the live stream. Stay tuned for all these end of the year lists. Also, a comic book movie ranking on my second channel. I'm going to do all of the albums that released this year ranked. Whole bunch of end of the year videos are coming to you guys. And with that said, let's start with number 7 on the disappointment list. My number 7 biggest disappointment. These first 2 disappointments are movies that I liked. I gave a positive score. I really enjoyed them. But I also had problems with it and left me feeling like not as good as I was hoping it to be. And so, first up on number 7 is Saw X. This is a movie that a lot of you are like, hey, that's a really good movie. That's the best Saw movie. Why is this a disappointment? Now, number 1, I love the traps. I loved all the gore and all the traps and all the kills that they bring to you in a Saw movie. I loved sometimes how they had John as one of the heroes. Sometimes it felt weird, but for the most part, I liked that. It was a unique spin on things. For the most part, I would much rather prefer to watch any of the other Saw movies where random people are just getting brutally mauled than watch this one. I like this movie. I think it's fine. But all the other movies, I feel like could be more entertaining. I thought the other ones were more entertaining. Big problem with this one is that the ending twist didn't quite work for me. It feels like they were pulling out of the hat that they had of like, you know what? This is random, and how are we going to connect this? Let's just do some movie magic. It made no sense whatsoever. So it was a really weak twist. And so I liked the movie. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. Just as a Saw movie, I'd much rather watch any other movies, and I left theater just a tiny bit disappointment that I wasn't hoping that this was the number 1 movie of the Saw franchise. Number 7 on the surprises is Nimona. Have you heard of Nimona? I know a lot of you haven't. I heard of it. I saw a couple people reviewing it on YouTube. Austin Burke. That's pretty much it. But, like, the people that were talking about it on Twitter gave it overwhelming positive reviews. Austin Burke gave it an overwhelming positive review. So I was like, what is this movie? I'm going to go watch it. And I went to go watch it, and it's a movie that definitely should have given more recognition. Just kind of a movie that was put on Netflix that has gorgeous animation. It's kind of like the Spider-Verse franchise animation mixed with Puss in Boots animation, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animation, but given its own fresh spin on things. And it looks absolutely gorgeous, and I absolutely loved the way it looked. Also, it has a deep emotional core here. There's a twist here that was genuinely like, oh wow, that is sad, and had me tearing up a bit. So, and the cast is all great. It's very funny. This is just a movie that it's very underrated, I think. I think most people didn't watch it. This whole year, it's still been in my top 10. It's I don't remember what it's on the list, but I still think it's in the top 10. It's still a really, really, really good movie, and it's a comic book movie, too, that a lot of people's comic book movie rankings of the year list completely skipping out. Go check out Nimona. It's really good. Number 6 on my disappointment list is John Wick Chapter 4, and again, these are movies I liked. I gave these positive reviews. This and number 5, number 4... that'll be, number 4 is where I'll stop giving the positive reviews on the disappointments. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It does a lot of things good. It's entertaining. It's funny. It has great action sequences, I think. There's some deep emotions with Rocket Raccoon and his family, specifically with Peter Quill and Rocket Raccoon. You know, they kind of have that banter, but they realize they need each other, and this can be really emotional in this movie. It's really emotional. The problem I have with this one is, number 1, there's so many fake-out deaths. Rocket Raccoon has a fake-out death. Peter Quill has a fake-out death. Gamora has a fake-out death. A lot of people have fake-out deaths to where it feels like there's no real stakes. It feels like James Gunn made this movie, and he's like, I'm so attached to these characters, I'm not going to let them go. And I think it would be 10 times better if a character died. That's just my personal opinion. I know a lot of you loved it the way it was, but a character should have died, in my opinion. I think that's would make it way better. Number 2, the second problem is the ending kind of left me underwhelmed. They spent this whole mission trying to keep the Guardians together, and then all of a sudden they're like, you know what? Let's break up. We're just going to break up. I was like, is that how we're doing it here? Now, of course, I only saw the movie once. I plan on rewatching it. I never had time to go back and rewatch it. Maybe I probably won't be able to, but maybe I'll squeeze in a rewatch here soon before I do my ranking of the end of the year. For me, there's 2 glaring problems that prevented this from being great, but it is nowhere near bad like a lot of other MCU movies were. 6, in surprises, Godzilla -1. And so, this movie was a movie that was on Netflix, not on Netflix, but I thought it was on Netflix. I thought it was just one of those Japanese movies that Netflix has of Godzilla I've never seen, never was really interested in. When everybody was talking about Godzilla -1, I was like, what is this? And then the big wigs started to review this one. Sean Chandler, Zach Pope, 3C Films, Chris Tuckman, Jeremy Johns, everybody that I watch started to review this movie, and they gave it overwhelmingly positive reviews. So this is a surprise because I didn't know what it was, but once the reviews started coming out, the time I went to go see it, I was so excited to go see it. I was not surprised how good this movie was, but I'm just very surprised that this is a movie that came out. I didn't even know what this was. And so, Godzilla -1, Godzilla action, obviously great. It's brutal. You feel the stakes. You get emotional when Godzilla does the nuclear blast. It's scary. It's intense. It's all amazing. But the cast and the characters and the story that they decide to tell here is also amazing. The Godzilla action is great. But then you could have an hour-long stretch where you don't need to see Godzilla and you could focus on the characters, and it's fantastic. The character story is absolutely fantastic. And it's just emotional. When Godzilla's on there, it's intense and brutal, but you feel for the characters. And by the end of the movie, when you get the victory, you feel the victory, and it's just awesome. Hollywood needs to take notes. They made this movie on less than a $15 million budget, and it doesn't show. It feels like it's much better than a lot of the films Hollywood's been putting out. And so it's just such a great movie. It's currently at number 4 on my list. Only on the surprise because I had no idea what it was before the big wig started reviewing it. But it's certainly a great movie. I recommend this one to you at all costs. Now on my disappointments list, I realized that when I was talking about the 5 and 4 and how I give them all a positive score, I realized that I went to number 5 after number 7. And so, John Wick Chapter 4 was number 6. It doesn't really matter how they're layered, really. Not really measured in disappointment levels, really. But John Wick Chapter 4 was technically number 6, while Guardians was number 5. We're going to talk about John Wick Chapter 4. I already kind of spoiled that. But we're jumping back into here. John Wick Chapter 4, first act, phenomenal. Has some great action sequences. Is absolutely great. Third act, the best action sequence of the year. The best finale of a movie of the year. It's intense. It is so cool to watch. The middle of the movie, for me, is where this all goes wrong. And like I said, I gave it a positive review. I like the movie. But the middle of the movie, for me, is where it all completely goes wrong. Because it feels like, and a lot of people have asked me, how else do you expect them to do it? It feels like going to a deal and challenging them to a deal feels just kind of lazy way to throw them out here. It's kind of a lazy way to end the franchise. Now, sure, I kind of think that it would be better if John Wick just came and killed him and kind of earned his freedom, or maybe just died at the end and never earned his freedom, but it kind of felt kind of like cheating. Oh, there's always one more way that John Wick can earn his freedom. It doesn't feel all that earned for me. Now, of course, I did like the movie. I do like the first and the third act. I think the action sequences are phenomenal. By the end of the movie, I was really liking it. But the middle just kind of feels lazy and kind of a dumb way to do it. In the middle action sequence in the club, it doesn't work for me at all. I don't like that action sequence at all. So there were some problems in the middle act, but the first and third act are still some of the best John Wick stuff we have. It's only number 6 in disappointments, and You know, now that that's out of the way, sorry for the confusion on the disappointments. Number 5 on the surprises, missing one of my top 5 movies of the year still. This is a movie that is technically a spiritual sequel to Searching. It takes place all on someone's computer screen. You're watching it through someone's computer screen, watching this mystery go unsolved. And the first 2 acts of it, I was like, yeah, that's some cool, more Searching stuff. Searching was a movie that I thought was good. It was close to being great, but I didn't really... The mystery was good. It wasn't as great. But when we get to the 3rd act and get all the twists and surprises, holy crap. Not only is it terrifying, but it's actually really awesome. It is awesome, the twists and surprises that they throw at you. It's terrifying, but you also feel the victories. You feel the win that these characters have, because the twist and the bad guy who's just such a bad guy, it's just one of the most intense endings to a movie that I have ever seen. I didn't know if they were going to die. I didn't know if they were going to live. I was captured by this movie, and it just proves to be one of the best movies of the year, in my opinion. For me, I've never liked this franchise. I never really liked Run. Searching was good, but it wasn't great. But all these movies, they're fine, but I didn't expect to leave this one saying it's one of the best movies of the year. Stormy Reed is also great in this movie, so obviously one of the biggest surprises of the year, and I absolutely loved it. Back to the disappointments. Scream 6, and this is the last one that I will give a positive score to on the disappointment list. Scream 6 is a movie, I think it does some Scream stuff well. Some cool kills in here. The reveal was pretty good, I thought. I like Gail, now that she's, not Gail, but I forget her name, Hayden Christensen's character. I like that she's back. It does everything that a Scream movie is supposed to do, and it does it pretty well. Where this movie goes wrong for me is that it doesn't feel like it has any, it doesn't have any stakes. Because there's so many times where characters get stabbed. Like, one guy gets stabbed 6 times, and you're like, oh crap, he just died. At the end of the movie, he's alive. And then this other girl who got stabbed is alive. And then this other person who got stabbed is alive. That it doesn't feel like there's any stakes, because everybody just dies, but then is still alive in the end. It doesn't feel intense or anything in the Scream movie. And for a Scream movie, where most of these movies, you're surprised when somebody dies. You're like, oh wow, I can't believe they killed that character off. This movie, it's like, again, they're so attached to this core 4 that they didn't want to kill anybody off. And to make this movie great, you needed to kill these characters off. You needed to kill a lot of characters off to feel the stakes. Sure, does everything a Scream movie is supposed to do right? I enjoyed it. But it still needed to have some stakes here. Back to the surprising side, number 4 for my surprises, Knock at the Cabin. This is an M. Night movie. I am very not an M. Night Shyamalan movie fan. A lot of his movies I don't like. I like what's it called? Signs. That's a good one. Sixth Sense is fine. Well, Sixth Sense is more than fine. Sixth Sense is great. Signs is fine. But I just never was a big fan of his work, even though a lot of people that I know personally say that he's a very good director. I never really felt that. So going into here, I didn't much like the trailers. I wasn't real excited for this movie, and I was surprised by how good it is. It's another movie that came out at the early beginning of the year that I really liked so much it's in my top 10. I think that it's intense. It is very intense. These people come knocking at the cabin door, and like the whole time you're like, oh my gosh, what do they want? Who's gonna die? I'm a little nervous every single time that they're on screen. You don't know who's gonna die. You don't know who's gonna make it out. But you also get a finale that can be pretty emotional with somebody dying to save the world. The whole thing is like, one of you guys have to die to save the whole world. And while the world's going to crap, one of them has to die. And so when the person dies, you feel the emotions and you feel the stakes that were here. And it's just intense the whole time through. And the emotions in the end were just really solid. That M. Night Shyamalan makes a pretty great movie here. I think he makes one of his better movies. I think that this is by far his best movie. This is my favorite movie by M. Night Shyamalan. I think he does everything pretty much right. And I'm shocked as a not fan of M. Night. So it's another one of the biggest surprises of the year for me. All right, now we're on the biggest disappointments, and these next 3 are movies I would give a negative score. 2 of them are in my bottom 5. That's the next 2 we're going to talk about. And then the number 1 disappointment isn't in my bottom 5. Did I say top 5? I meant bottom 5. Not my bottom 5, not my bottom 10, but it's still not a good movie. Ant-Man 3 is number 3, though. I'm a big fan of the Ant-Man franchise. I think the first Ant-Man is one of, if not one, yeah, it's one of the best MCU movies by a long shot. I really love that movie. I think it does everything right. Ant-Man 2, it's a little weaker, but it's still a bunch of fun. Going into here, we had Kang. Jonathan Majors was great. When it's an Ant-Man movie, it is a bunch of fun. But this movie is, like, so lazy and just so basic, while also doing a bunch of things that piss me off. Like, it pisses me off. A lot of things that this movie does. And I mean this with the most anger that I have. This is not my least favorite movie of the year. It's my second least favorite movie of the year. The number 1, Insidious: The Red Door, pisses me off more. But there's never been enough movies. There's never been 3 movies in a year that just makes me so angry by this movie. Number 1, you got MODOK here, right? He's a character. He's there. He's going through a character arc, right? This character arc is him saying, I'm just tired of being the bad guy. Maybe I should be a good guy. And Cassie goes, well, you know what? Don't be a dick. He's like, I can do that? I cannot be a dick? And then he turns into a hero. That is the character arc for MODOK. Is that he's just told not to be a dick. And he's like, oh, okay. And completely switches around. What? He thinks he's Avenger by the end of the movie? What? This is one of the most stupid and terrible character arcs I've ever seen. And Kang, the big bad villain who's going to be the next big threat, this is one of the most dangerous Kangs, that they literally locked him in the quantum realm so he doesn't get out and destroy millions of other worlds. The way he's defeated is by Ant-Man and a couple of ginormous ants. The killer of worlds, destroyed so many worlds, is defeated by some big ants chewing on his technology. That's like saying Thanos is defeated by a Wakandan army. That, like, the Wakandans are a good army, but that's the most powerful being ever. It's so bad. And, like, the Wakandan army could probably take down these ants. Well, I don't know, they're technologically advanced ants, but it just does not. You cannot forgive this movie for doing that. It's so lazy. It's so repetitive of so many other MCU movies. It is a disaster. I absolutely hate this movie. Number 3 on the surprise list, Gran Turismo. And I think this is number 3 of my year. 3rd favorite movie of the year. I went into this one fully expecting it to be good. Don't get me wrong. I fully thought it would be good. And then it really surprised me. It surprised me by being more than good. It surprised me by being perfect. This movie is so good. When you get into the beginning, it just tells kind of like an underdog story of racers, video game players who are going to be racers now. I think that's a very good story, and the cast is pretty great here. I think all that does well. The racing scenes are intense, but the more you go on, the more it turns into a feel-good story. But then when you get the big conflict, when he gets into the wreck, right before he was about to win, you feel that. And I'm like, oh wow. I thought the movie had like 5 minutes left. There goes my phone. I thought the movie had like 5 minutes left. And then it's like, psych. Nope. It had a whole nother hour left. But that hour is one of the most, not only painful, but just emotionally potent hours in cinema that we've had all year. The racing scenes are excellent. The character arcs are excellent. I got a bit emotional in the end when his father and all the character arcs that go there. This movie is another great film that came out in 2023. This movie is so good, and I cannot recommend it enough. I already bought the Steelbook. I got the Steelbook again for Christmas, but you can never have enough of this movie. It is so, so good. Number 2 on my disappointment list, 65. Where can you go wrong with this one? Adam Driver fighting dinosaurs. Where can you go wrong? First 30, 45 minutes. I think they're solid. I think that the dinosaur action was pretty cool. It's pretty fun. But then they get stuck in a cave. And now that they're in a cave, they're just there for another half an hour in a cave doing nothing. The movie where Adam Driver goes to fight dinosaurs had me so excited. And then you just, put him in a cave. Have him walk around a cave for a little bit. It's kind of boring. Then the ending is just kind of, they stop a dinosaur by using some alien tech. Cool, I guess. It's so boring in the middle to where a movie that shouldn't be boring because Adam Driver is fighting dinosaurs gets so boring and it's just not entertaining. It does everything just so drab, and you're sitting back and you're like, this is supposed to be entertaining, and does everything kind of like slog, where it's only 90 minutes, or it's even less than 90 minutes, and it feels like you're going through a slog here, because it just doesn't have spunk, it doesn't feel entertaining. It's really not a good movie, and it's one of the biggest disappointments of the year for me. Number 2 on surprises. My biggest surprise up until a couple weeks ago. Blue Beetle. This movie I thought the first trailer looked really good. Second trailer made me lose all faith in this movie. I thought, wow, that looks bad. That looks absolutely atrocious. I went to go see it on opening night with my brother, obviously, because it's a comic book movie. And I was like, okay, let's go watch it. And the first 2 acts of this movie I thought were good. They have some nice family moments. It's really funny. But I felt myself kind of like, okay, kind of missed the Blue Beetle suit, though. We could use a bit more Blue Beetle. But then we head into that third act, and oh my, is this not one of the best third acts of the year? This third act has everything. From where somebody dies, and you feel the emotions that this family is going through, or where you get all the emotional payoff as they stop the bad guys, or even just like this one guy, Kerouac, or whatever his name is, he's there, and he just feels like a throwaway villain. But even at the end, you get the emotions. Oh, wow, that's what happened to him. He lost everything, and he even gets a little character arc there. The villain gets a character arc there at the end to stop the big bad villain. Obviously, so many people's complaints is it's basic or it's too much like other movies. I get that. But for me, I was just so surprised. And Blue Beetle shows up in the third act for a long time. And the fight choreography is absolutely insane. I think they played a Beastie Boys song. I think it's pretty awesome at the end of the movie. The third act is pretty great. So emotional, so good. And again, proves James Gunn, every movie he says is great, it's going to be great. The Flash, Blue Beetle, he didn't even really talk about Aquaman 2, so I can't really speak about that one. I liked it, not gonna lie, but it was one of my biggest surprises of the year. But my biggest disappointment of 2023, the one that made me leave and be like, oh, okay, I was expecting much more, was Rebel Moon. Part 1, A Child of Fire. I haven't done a review yet for it. I haven't talked about the movie yet. But I will. Here's my next video. This movie kind of frankly sucked. The first act, I was like, okay, there's some interesting Zack Snyder things. I can't wait to get to the middle of it. Hope it will do better. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, did it not do better. It feels like, and this is exactly what happened though. It feels like they were like, yeah, well, we're going to need you to make a PG-13 movie, but then you can do your director's cut later, which is what happened. It feels like Zack Snyder wasn't even present. It's like the studio's just like, you know what? We're just going to release a PG-13 movie. Netflix is so greedy. They do this all the time. Franchise, keep trying to find the new franchise, and they just wanted the view wires. They just wanted Zack Snyder's name on it, when I could feel Zack Snyder, for the majority of this movie, probably wasn't even there. It's probably working on his rated R cut. And I'm sure the rated R cut will be awesome, but this movie was not. There's characters. The whole movie is about going to find these characters and kind of, get these characters on a war. And then you get to the third act. They have nothing to do. They are not even doing anything. They're kind of just shoved to the background while you're following the main character and the fight against the Rebel Moon Darth Vader, which, very end, very much like Anakin Skywalker, he comes back. But The whole middle of the movie was about getting these people, and they're not even present. It feels so lazy, so stupid. And I don't know why Netflix would decide to put out the PG-13 version and then save the rated R version for later. It's just so greedy and so stupid. And it ends up with a movie that doesn't even feel finished. It just feels completely stupid. The world was interesting. I want to see more from this world. But you can't just throw out a movie on Netflix and, like, not put any effort into it. It's not a good movie, and I was so disappointed sitting down watching this movie. I was hoping it was going to be good. Even though the review said otherwise, I was hoping it would defy odds, and it doesn't. It's really not good. Biggest surprise of the year, another one, up until a couple weeks ago, is Wonka. Just like 65 and Blue Beetle. It's Wonka. Not my most anticipated, but my most surprising movie of the year. This is the family movie of the year. This is a movie you all need to go out and see right now. Timothy Chalamet right here, phenomenal. The cast, phenomenal. The emotions, deep. There's a whole subplot about this girl and finding her family that really, really kind of hurt deep, honestly. The emotions for there were really, really good. The musical numbers, surprisingly fantastic. The comedy, surprisingly great. It's just a family film that I was not looking forward to. I went to the theater, me and my brother, and I was like, I don't think this is going to be any good. And I walked out not only having fun, but just almost on the brink of tears. Like, that's how emotional and sad the movie was. And it just proves again that Paul King doesn't miss. The director of Paddington does not miss. And he didn't miss with this movie. And the movie is just so good, and it's my most surprised movie of the year. That is my biggest disappointments and biggest surprise of the year 2023. Let me know down below your list of all of these. What are your biggest surprise, biggest disappointments? I want to know all that and more. Stay tuned for a couple reviews, end of the year list, all that and more coming soon. Also on my second channel, I'm going to be ranking albums that released this year, so that one's going to be fun. And with that said, thank you guys for clicking on this video, and with that said, subscribe to join the Nerd Army. Peace out.